I'm going to do a short reading from my brand new book, The Past Sucks, which you might have guessed is a time travel book. First in a trilogy. There's going to be released 3 books in 3 days. And it's a time travel with a bit of a difference, because the idea here is you can go in the past and do whatever you want. The past is your playground. Say no to the time cops. So this is the one out today. It's called The Past Sucks. Now, if you go to Amazon, you can read the sample. If you go to humanlegion.com, you can read a whole lot, actually. You can download it. But because you can read from the beginning online, it's very easy to do. I'm going to read a little bit further on. Now, the main character is Stiletto Caldwell, and a big chunk of the first book is his relationship with his boss, the Ox. Well, this is how they meet. So up to this point, you realise that Stiletto Caldwell is in a war, and it's not going well for him. And you can probably guess what's going to happen. He's going to get recruited. So here goes. If you look it up in history books, you know, the big reference ones that nobody reads, you might find a few paragraphs on the reduction of the Rhine-Ruhr pocket. For me, it meant racing from one defensive position to another, always retreating to avoid being overrun. The onslaught was falling on the units to our flanks, while my battalion was only on the receiving end of a little light shelling and strafing. Just World Sock being polite, really, in case we felt that they were ignoring us. On the 4th day of our reduction, my platoon found itself defending a double berm line just north of Essen. It had been a beauty spot once, a lake surrounded by trees, with that delightful woodland leaf litter springiness underfoot. Defending against attack from the north, I counted myself lucky that I was on a second line of berms. If an attack came in hard, I would get a chance to run away and live a few more hours, or even days. Not for the first time in my life, my expectations proved to be completely ass end up. We faced north, but the assault came from the south. Drones swarming over the lake behind us. How they snuck past our security posts, I will never know. But I wasn't thinking about that as I flung myself against the dirt and sandbagged the ceramicrete of my firing post. Hypersonic darts thwacked into dirt and flesh, striking sparks off the hardened surfaces. Screams of the wounded and dying drowned out our return fire. The drones passed overhead, and I looked upon a hardened defensive position transformed into a pincushion. If I had any sense, I would have ignored the screams and cowered with my nose to the dirt. I didn't. With the drone swarm headed for the first berm line, I got to my feet and charged my coil gun. War does strange things to people's heads, unpredictable things. You can never be sure how you'll react until it's you amid the shells and the bullets. We were all reservists. I'd trained with my comrades before the invasion, but didn't know any of them very well. After 24 days in the fortress, I'd not only come to know them intimately, but to depend upon them too. Terrified though I was, I couldn't lie in the dirt while my friends in the front line were being perforated with darts. So I stood up and shot the drones out of the sky. I'm not proud of that. In fact, I think I was an idiot. We'd learned that if you could hit the rear turbofans, the drones would drop like stones. It wasn't an easy shot, but I was a marksman. I even had a badge stitched into my uniform to prove it. For a few seconds, I was almost a hero. I was wreaking such devastation that a score of drones saw the threat I was posing and marked me as a priority target. They swung around to take me out. The few comrades who'd followed my example now sought cover, but a madness had taken me, and I kept firing. I can't explain why. Like I said, war screws with your mind. It can make the most unlikely people into heroes, and it can make the already dumb even more stupid. Both of those apply to me, if you believe what other people will tell you. Ironically, the drones I was firing at never hit me. It was the second drone wave skimming over the lake that did for me, the one I never saw coming. I felt a line of fire rip across my spine. Then I was falling, rolling down the berm and coming to rest, not on that nice springy leaf litter, but the needle embrace of a gorse bush. Despite the wounds, ripped from my flesh by the darts, for some reason, the gorse needles were agonisingly worse. As I lay pinned to the bush, I cursed whoever had planted the damn plant here, because I was pretty sure it had no right growing in a wood. I watched the army of drones rush in. Some were heavier models and landed on the shore, where they reconfigured themselves into attack spiders. I yelled a warning to let my comrades know the war machines were climbing the berm, but only blood and bubbles emerged from my mouth. The pain in my back dimmed. I could still feel it, but it felt far away somehow. Was I about to die? But I wasn't ready to die. I wanted to fight on. Born and raised in the gutter, my life had never shown much promise. But it couldn't end with my shredded corpse hanging from a bush. Could it? In my final moment, I realised that this was precisely what was about to happen. And with that cheerful thought echoing in my stupid head, I died. Next chapter. I coughed. Weirdly. It sounded all wrong, more like a child's first lesson on a wind instrument than a manly clearing of the air tubes. Tubes. There was one stuck down my throat. I gagged and refused to open my eyes. Sticking things down my throat is a pet hate of mine. My fingers clawed into the ground, digging through loose leaf litter and dirt. That was unexpected. I'd presumed I was either in hospital or the afterlife, and I imagined both being cleaner than this. "Let's have this out," said a woman's voice. I liked her sound. The words felt strong, sensuous, and, well, kind of hot. Women's voices often do when I have my eyes shut. And this Binta had an exotic accent I could not place. I opened my eyes, and instantly wished I hadn't. Waves of panic washed through me when I saw her pronounced cheekbones and eyes that yelled Chinese at me. Most of the enemy infantry assaults we'd faced had been pressed by troops from the Chinese Triple Republic. And that meant I'd been captured by World Sock. Technically, the Chinese Triple Republic and many of its neighbours were independent nations, merely proud allies in a World Sock-led coalition. But maps generally coloured the Triple Republic a hatched blue, with a key that said something like Underworld Sock Influence. Chinese troops had been first into the assault, cannon fodder, and I think that said all we needed to know about the real independence of the Triple Republic. I looked into the woman's face and found no compassion there. She wore a strange uniform. She was a medic, I supposed, rather than a frontline shock trooper. Even so, the absence of any emblems on her uniform was peculiar. My surroundings were no more reassuring. They'd taken me out of the gorse bush to patch me up under the trees, but I guessed that was just to use me in one of their sickening propaganda videos. When they'd finished with me, it would be a bullet to the back of the neck, painted over in blue. Or worse, I could spend a decade in a World Sock education facility, followed by a lifetime as a slave labourer. Something didn't sit quite right with that picture, though. To start with, the woman's hair was green, and while that was very World Sock, it didn't fit with what I knew of the Chinese military. And her accent, that didn't match either. Just maybe she was something else. Finnish, perhaps? "What's going on?" I asked her, cheered to find that blood wasn't bubbling out with my words. "You're being—" She was interrupted by a rumble of falling artillery shells. The battle had moved on since I'd blacked out, but only by a few miles. I guessed they were hitting central Essen. "I'm recruiting you," she said when the shelling paused, "for the time Dogz. Do you want to sign up?" "Who the devil are the time Dogz?" "We're the people who stopped you being dead. I've pulled you back to the brink of death. and you're stable for now. How would you like to be restored to full health? What's the catch? I told you, you joined the time Dogz. Which side are you on? She raised an eyebrow at that. Not that it matters, I said quickly, because I decided I liked being not dead. But just so we're clear, you're playing for World Sock, right? Oh, we're long past World Sock. She sounded dismissive, not to mention mysterious. Time Dogz. The first word worried at me. I get called a dog from dawn to dusk, no problem, but time dog? It wasn't the sort of word I expected for a military unit. She ran a medical scanner over my chest. The obvious question came to my lips, but I felt too stupid to ask it. Since when had I been scared to say stupid things in front of a beautiful woman? What's your name? I asked instead. She didn't look up from the device. They call me the Ox. Okay, that was weird. Hi, the Ox. I'm Stiletto Coldwell. When are you from? Now she looked at me. Stiletto? I thought you were Stephen Zygmunt Coldwell. I winced at the embarrassing middle name, though it's far from the only burden my mother had placed on me. That's me, I admitted, but I'm generally called Stiletto. Close friends call me Stillo. For the first time, the Ox softened her full lips into a smile. Oh, I understand now. That tattoo on your chest. I like it. It was my turn to raise an eyebrow. Which part? The ink? Or the chest? Her lips twisted wickedly. Both. As for when I'm from, I was born far away from the unpleasantness of this era. Does World Sock win? Yes, of course. That's bad. What happens to them eventually? A rebellion overthrows them? No, don't worry about that. World Sock as you know it is long dead by my time. What exactly is the job you want me to do, Ox? Whatever I say it is. Do you want to join or not? Yes. Good. You've just given legal consent. Now, in case you haven't noticed, there's a war on. I just need to check a few more details. If you pass, we'll be underway. And if I don't? She looked at me with chilling coldness. Then you go back to being dead. The device in her hand sprouted metal fingers. She passed it again over my body. I tried tilting my head to assess my chances of an independent exit, but I couldn't. Something was gripping the back of my neck. I attempted to rock my whole body to one side, but failed again. As I did, I thought I felt that same gripping sensation running all the way down my spine, though I couldn't be sure what was going on. My eyes, at least, could move. On the dirt, beneath the woman scanning me, was a device with a pump ticking away. A fat tube arced over from this box and disappeared inside my chest. The tube was opaque. Call me Stillo the Squeamish if you must, but I was grateful not to see inside. Once more my eyes fixed upon the Ox, and I was acutely aware that I was totally reliant upon this strange woman. Her device beeped, its fingers retracted, and she stuffed it inside a pouch at her hip. My heart felt weird, as if pumping warm acid. Maybe it was. Maybe it was nerves, but I was certain that my continued existence depended upon whatever that machine had just reported. Let me tell you, I hate my life being in the hands of machines. The Ox planted her feet either side of my shoulders and looked directly down at my face. Lucky for you, scanner says your historical significance is 3. Out of how many? I asked. 3? I tried laughing, but I couldn't do that either. Who am I kidding? It's not out of 3, is it? She jiggled her head to the left. What the hell did that mean? Well, I demanded, are you going to tell me? The woman smirked. It was a foxy look. As in, she was a fox, and I was a chicken she was about to gobble up. Point of clarification. This was not a remotely pleasant prospect, even if she was easy on the eye. She was a predator, and I did not like to be helpless prey. The reading is in microeves. Speak Gen Eng. She frowned and looked away for a second. Generic English, Northern European variant, circa 2300. Confirmed. Irritation gathered at the edge of her eyes. I am talking Gen Eng. It's your vocabulary that's lacking. An eve is a unit of historical significance. An eve of 1 would be highly significant. That's your Julius Caesars and Lenin's. Probably Mao Zedong and General Mansour too. You scored 3 millionths of an eve. That's bad. She laughed. Why? Because it makes you feel insignificant. Wait till I explain what a logarithmic scale means. I twitched. It was the closest I could get to a shrug. I'm a worthless piece of sputum. Tell me something I don't already know. Worthless? That depends on your perspective. I would have needed a license, signed by a magistrate to bring back anyone over 1,000 microeves. You're fair game. I can do whatever I want with you. Again, that wasn't nearly as good as it might have sounded in better circumstances. I'm dying, I pointed out, as much as anything as a justification to myself for being so supine. That's true, she agreed, which explains my pitifully low eve count. No, if I'd taken a reading a decade ago, you might have read a little more, but only a fraction of a microeve. You've always been irrelevant, Caldwell. By waiting for you to die on a battlefield, I'm simply taking precautions that people who do have some slight significance won't notice you disappear. And there are more of you recruiters? She ignored me and placed 2 discs on my forehead. You're ghouls, I said, though taking care not to disturb the discs. You stalk disasters, the aftermath of battles, cholera outbreaks, Spanish flu, the SR Mon 33 pandemic. I can't believe it. Then you're a moron. Those examples you gave are all good sources of cheap recruits. Still standing over me, the orcs brought out of all things a pair of blue dowsing rods. Excuse me. That's not what I meant, I protested. Look around. With so many to choose from, why pick me? Who's to say you're the only one we're picking from this little battle, Caldwell? She looked down and winked. Maybe I picked you for your cute face and pretty chest. Since I'm the one bringing you back to life, perhaps I'm assuming you will show your gratitude to my personal satisfaction. The rods jerked in her hand. Energy washed around the discs in my head. My universe blurred. I had a fleeting memory of lying beneath a red arch, of green tiles and scented steam. The next thing I knew for certain, I was waking up in a little room containing a bed, no visible exits, and a bedside clock I couldn't figure how to switch on, even. A few hours later, an annoying droid showed up and told me to get dressed. I got a little mad at the tin tosser, and I think we're all caught up with my story now. So, that's my account of how I woke up dead. But don't worry, the real story's only just beginning. I hope you enjoyed it.